1 week from today will be the first and only debate for the Texas governor's race between Governor Greg Abbott and challenger Beto O'Rourke. Steve, you're going to be there as a moderator, part of that. We have got Scott Braddock joining us to break it all down a week ahead of time, editor of the Quorum Report out of Austin. Scott, always great to have you here.
Happy Friday, y'all. Good to see you.
Absolutely.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. I don't think I can say that enough this week. So a lot of people know the big issues that are going to be discussed next week in this debate. Border issues, immigration, school safety, what happened in Uvalde. Is there anything that you're really looking for that you hope is touched on next week?
I'm wondering what kind of nuanced answers the governor is going to have on issues like gun violence, like abortion, and what kind of nuanced answers Beto O'Rourke is going to have on one other thing you mentioned, which is immigration. During this campaign, you have seen where the Democrats and Republicans, and it's not the first time this has happened in politics for sure, but it seems more pronounced this year. But both parties and their candidates only want to talk about certain issues and not the issues that the other party wants to talk about, right? And so this will be a chance for voters to kind of kick the tires on both these guys and hear them talk about things they might not otherwise be that comfortable discussing.
How big is this debate? Like we said, it's the only one they're having. How big is this? And of the two candidates, who do you think it's bigger for?
It's a time-honored tradition, Steve, in Texas to have the only gubernatorial debate. If you're only going to have one, have it on Friday night when Friday Night Football is happening.
Right, yes.
Because, of course, the incumbent doesn't want that many people to see it. Look, there's the most downside risk for the governor, and that's why you have O'Rourke running around saying he'd like to have more debates. And Governor Abbott, at least to his credit, saying he'll do this one debate. I was thinking earlier in the year that when Beto confronted Abbott, right, the day after the shooting in Uvalde, I thought that might be the only time they would be face-to-face during this entire campaign because of how ugly that was. And the governor's, campaign might not want to see anything like that again. But they are doing this, and they're doing it in an area where the governor would like to have it, right? The governor and Republicans have really put a focus on South Texas and on the Valley in particular, trying to flip some legislative seats down there and trying to drum up more Republican support. And the big reason they're doing that is they want to be able to offset some of the losses they're seeing in suburban Texas. So this is the fact that it's going to be where it's going to be is a big deal for Republicans because they're trying to make this big effort to try to flip South Texas. Yeah,
it's going to be in Edinburgh at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley.
A lot of people are probably very aware of how each candidate really stands on some of these big issues. You've already mentioned immigration, abortion, gun safety. But is there an issue in particular you think makes either candidate more vulnerable in a debate setting?
Absolutely. I think that the Republican leadership in the state didn't think it all the way through to the end when it came to the abortion restrictions in particular. For Governor Abbott, that's a big liability. And when he's been asked about the no exceptions for rape and incest in the laws that we have now in Texas for these abortion bans, he doesn't have great answers, right? Last year, he said that he would work to eliminate all rape in Texas. Well, that's not happened. And we don't expect it to be successful, even though he said that he's tried to make progress on that. It seemed like a tin-ear sort of tone-deaf thing to say on his part. And then just a few weeks ago, he said that if a woman is raped, she can take the Plan B pill. Again, tone-deaf, tin-ear is the way a lot of his critics put it. And for Beto, I think it's immigration. He has a very nuanced answer on that, but it's a lot easier for Republicans to campaign on immigration simply because their answer is not nuanced. Their answer is to either send people back to their country of origin, or now they're sending them to the, quote, blue states and blue cities to try to sort of punish the leadership in those places. That goes a lot easier on a bumper sticker than Beto trying to explain that what he'd like to see is comprehensive immigration reform, which would require bipartisan support.
We've seen both of these guys debate before. I mean, both of them I would term as skilled debaters. I mean, do you agree with that? And what do you think what this shapes up to be next Friday?
I'm wondering how it's going to ripple out from the live event. I mean, so a lot of people will see it here on KSAT and on other TV stations around the country, around the state, and people can watch it around the country online if they like. Especially with Beto, he's got a lot of fans outside of Texas as well, so some people will stream it online. I'm wondering to what degree we'll see a lot of the clips from the debate. If there's any hot moments where these two guys clash over different issues, if that's going to be really picked up on social media, and then whether or not you have Abbott and Beto using clips from the debate in their paid advertising. That's where the needle will really be moved. And we have a long way to go as far as how much political advertising we're going to see between now and the election, millions of dollars going to be spent on television, radio, English and Spanish language as well. And so one of the things that both of these guys are going to be looking to do is, number one, not mess up, right? For their side, they got to play a lot of defense. And then for the other side, they really got to sort of, especially if you're Beto, really swing for the fences and look for that breakout moment. If Beto doesn't get one, he'll continue to, lag in the polls, I think, because look, by definition, you have a Democratic candidate who is behind because they're the Democrat in Texas. So he's the one who really has to swing for the fences. Abbott will do a lot more defense.
You mentioned the polls. We've seen them tighten up in the last couple of weeks. You put any real stock in that?
The public polling has been sort of all over the place. I think what people need to remember about polls is that it's not a predictor of the future, right? It's a diagnostic tool to kind of try to tell us where these campaigns are right now. And the other thing about these polls is you don't read too much into any one poll. You try to look for patterns in those polls. We've seen where some of the polling has shown a wider race. I was told about an internal poll in the Abbott campaign that shows a much tighter race, but that one seemed to be an outlier, and I would still handicap it, of course, for the Republicans as we go toward Election Day.
But perhaps an indicator, because you and I talked, I remember we had this conversation, Scott, a few weeks ago, that you didn't think that there would be a debate, that the Abbott camp seemed pretty confident early on that they didn't need to debate Beto O'Rourke. Is it an indicator of how tightened this race has gotten that they've decided they will debate?
I think it could be. Look, I think several things about the way the Abbott campaign is running things tell me that they think, at least, that it might be a tighter race, including the fact that they're debating, as you point out, and including the fact that you don't see Abbott's campaign going after O'Rourke specifically on the issue of guns in quite the way that we thought was going to happen before the Uvalde massacre played out. And I think we've talked about this on KSAT. Going back to January and February, you saw digital advertising from the Abbott campaign that was specifically focused on O'Rourke's comment from the presidential run that did not go well for him, where Beto said, quote, "Hell yes, we'll take your AR-15, your AK-47. But after Uvalde, you don't see them doing that. And so they're pushing all in on immigration. I also think that for Republicans, the attacks against Democrats on the economy are not quite landing with voters in quite the same way that Republicans had hoped or thought that they would. And I think some of that has to do, with the price of gas coming down and things starting to improve a little bit. People are, not necessarily happy about the economic environment, but they're not as angry about it. And so Republicans are having to find other things to talk about, specifically the issue of immigration, which of course fires up their base more than anything else.
Yeah, immigration, what happened in Uvalde, abortion. There are so many big issues really just wrapped up in a lot of tension and emotion. We're going to watch it all play out next week, next Friday, in the one and only gubernatorial debate, which you can watch
right here on KSAT 12, 7 o'clock next Friday. Scott Braddock, always appreciate your time, Scott.
Yep, and we'll look for Steve to knock it out of the park, too. We'll talk to you soon.
I hope I don't make any news.